Snape survived Nagini. Severus Snape's death is one of the most shocking moments in Deathly Hallows. We watch Nagini strike, the snake's venom spreading, and Harry standing helpless as Snape bleeds out on the floor of the Shrieking Shack. Canon says he died there, but a massive corner of the fandom refuses to believe it, and the evidence they point to is surprisingly convincing. First, Nagini never actually bit Snape in the movie. She constricts him, strikes, and he collapses. But some argue her bite might not have been instantly fatal. Wizards have survived far worse with the right potions. And remember, Snape was the Half-Blood Prince. He literally wrote the book on counter curses and antidotes. Could he have prepared something in advance, knowing Voldemort's plan to use Nagini? Then there's the body. In the book, Harry never confirms Snape's death. He sees the light go out of his eyes, but we never get a burial or a body recovered at Hogwarts. Compare that to other deaths, which always get closure. For many fans, that's a deliberate omission. Finally, Rowling herself dodged the question for years when fans begged for confirmation. No denial, just silence. And that silence fueled the theory. Snape didn't die in the shack. He slipped into the shadows as he always did. The Basilisk Fang versus Harry's Horcrux. Here's a fan question that refuses to die. If Harry was impaled by a Basilisk Fang in the Chamber of Secrets, why didn't the Horcrux inside him die the same way Tom Riddle's diary did? Both were soul fragments. Both were pierced with basilisk venom. So why does one shatter while the other lives on? Some fans argue it comes down to timing. The diary was stabbed multiple times until the ink bled out. Harry was stabbed once, and before the venom spread far enough, Fawkes healed him with Phoenix Tears. That healing could have stabilized Harry's body and the Horcrux. Others push a darker theory. Maybe the Horcrux in Harry wasn't separate enough yet, bound too tightly to his living soul. In other words, you can't kill one without killing the other. This opens controversial doors. If Fawkes saved Harry, did he accidentally save Voldemort too? Did Phoenix Tears preserve a piece of the Dark Lord until the Forest sacrifice years later? Canon never gives a final answer, so the Basilisk Fang theory stays one of the fandom's most heated mysteries. Draco and Hermione. This theory blends fan fiction with canon mechanics into one explosive what-if. It claims Hermione's time turner in Prisoner of Azkaban didn't just help her juggle classes, it cracked a doorway to parallel realities. In one of those branches, she never gravitated toward Ron. Instead, she and Draco Malfoy collided in a timeline where he wasn't fully consumed by Voldemort's ideology. Cursed Child proves advanced time turners create altered presence. Cedric's survival reshapes the entire war. That's where the twist comes in. If Cedric Diggory, one of the most decent characters in canon, could become cruel and twisted through a timeline shift, maybe Draco Malfoy could have become the opposite. In this fractured reality, he takes Cedric's role as the good-hearted rival, the boy defined not by hate, but by quiet integrity. Imagine it. Hermione, isolated by her time loops, meets a Draco who doesn't mock her bloodline, but admires her brilliance. He becomes the ally she never expected, the Slytherin with a Gryffindor's heart. Their bond grows not out of fanfiction dreams, but out of logic. Change the timeline, change the boy. Canon keeps them enemies, but in the Time Turner's shadow, there's a universe where Draco is Cedric, and Hermione falls in love with him. Ron is Dumbledore. Few theories are more infamous than Rombledore. The idea that Ron Weasley eventually traveled back in time and lived out the rest of his life as Albus Dumbledore. Supporters claim the parallels are undeniable. Ron is tall, thin, blue-eyed, with a knack for strategy, first seen in the chess game where he sacrifices himself. Dumbledore later plays the same kind of chess, but with armies and lives. Both hide trauma behind humor, both love sweets, and both seem to know far more about Harry than they should. Some fans even argue that Dumbledore's odd comments about destiny, choice, and sacrifice sound like someone who already lived those years. His encyclopedic knowledge of Harry's inner struggles, maybe not wisdom, maybe memory. But canon tears holes. Time Turners in Prisoner of Azkaban only allow short jumps. The advanced ones in Cursed Child cause chaos, not perfect loops. And Dumbledore's family tree is documented. It doesn't match the Weasleys. Still, the symmetry is intoxicating. The boy who gave his life on a chessboard becomes the man who sacrifices pawns on a battlefield. Is it possible? Canon says no. Fans whisper maybe. More more monsters in the chamber. The Chamber of Secrets is singular, but its name promises plural secrets. That's the seed of this theory. Salazar Slytherin didn't leave just one basilisk. He left layers of traps or additional creatures that were never triggered on screen. Fans point to scale and intention. Slytherin built a vast hidden complex with Parseltongue locks, a basilisk that slithered through miles of plumbing, and a mission to purge the unworthy. If your plan depends on one monster, why design a whole subterranean fortress? The basilisk's shed skin shows centuries of growth. Some argue long-term breeding, eggs, or backup guardians would fit the founder's paranoia. Canon only confirms one basilisk, created long ago and controlled by Slytherin's heir. No text or Pottermore entry mentions secondary beasts, and nothing else attacks Harry in the chamber. But the environment, serpentine statues, restricted access, and a purpose bigger than one snake leaves room for speculation. If Slytherin engineered redundancy anywhere, it would be here, waiting for the wrong parcel mouth to say the right word. Was Crookshanks a Potter? This theory fuses two of the wildest fan theories into one. Crookshanks wasn't just a magical cat, he was the Potter's cat, and possibly an animagus tied to Harry's family. Imagine it, when Godric's Hollow burned, Crookshanks survived, later ending up in the magical menagerie. That would explain why, the moment he sees Scabbers, he doesn't hesitate. He knows Peter Pettigrew. He watched him before, maybe even on the night of the betrayal. But here's where it gets darker. What if Crookshanks wasn't just a pet, but an animagus? Maybe even one of Harry's grandparents, or another relative Rowling never detailed. We're told nothing about the fate of Harry's grandparents, and the books never explain why no grandparents stepped in after James and Lily's deaths. A hidden animagus identity could bridge that gap, a family member who stayed close to Harry, unnoticed, offering silent protection. It's controversial, sure. Canon describes Crookshanks as half Kneazle, not a wizard in disguise. But the loyalty, the uncanny awareness, and the timing all make this theory hard to shake. Whether he was pet or protector, Crookshanks may have been far more than Hermione ever realized. Was Snape the real hero? This theory says Snape wasn't just a double agent. He was the real architect of Voldemort's defeat. The evidence is stacked. In Sorcerer's Stone, he counters the Broomjinx to keep Harry alive. In Prisoner of Azkaban, he brews Wolfsbane so Lupin doesn't harm students. In Order of the Phoenix, he teaches Harry occlumency to block Voldemort's mind. In Half-Blood Prince, he obeys Dumbledore's plan and spares him a worse death from the cursed ring, preserving Draco's soul. Then there's Deathly Hallows. The Silver Doe Patronus guides Harry to the Sword of Gryffindor, confirmed later as Snape's. He ferries intelligence under Voldemort's nose, protects students where he can as headmaster, and dies, passing Harry the memories that explain the Elder Wand and the Die for the Hallows trap. Without Snape's choices, Harry doesn't get the tools or the truth in time. The pushback is simple. Heroism isn't just results. Snape bullies students, endangers the trio in the shack, and treats Harry with open contempt. The theory argues intent and sacrifice outweigh cruelty. Critics argue both matter. Canon proves Snape's actions were decisive. Whether that makes him the true hero or a tragic, necessary one is exactly why fans still debate it. Neville was meant to kill Voldemort. This theory reframes destiny. The prophecy could have pointed to Harry or Neville. Both were born at the end of July to parents who defied Voldemort 3 times. Dumbledore explains that Voldemort chose Harry and thus made him the chosen one. But many say fate kept a back door with Neville's name on it. What actually kills Voldemort? Harry wins when Voldemort's curse rebounds, but only after every Horcrux is gone. Neville decapitates Nagini with the Sword of Gryffindor moments later, destroying the final Horcrux and stripping Voldemort of protection. No Nagini kill, no mortal Dark Lord, no final rebound. If killing Voldemort means causing the condition that lets him die, Neville does it. The sword appears to a true Gryffindor in need. It presents itself to Neville, not Harry, at the crucial second. His arc fits a chosen pattern: overlooked child, quiet courage, leading Dumbledore's army, and the decisive blow when everyone else is down. Dumbledore stressed the prophecy binds only because Voldemort believed it. Even so, Neville Neville's choice in that moment carried the war across the finish line. Canon is clear that Harry is the chosen one because Voldemort decided it. But this theory says destiny hedged its bets. One boy would face Voldemort, the other would make the end possible. Different titles, same outcome. Voldemort falls because Neville raises the sword. Dudley's magical child. This theory suggests that after a lifetime hating magic, Dudley Dursley grows up and has a magical child of his own. Canon makes it possible. We know witches and wizards can appear in Muggle families. Lily Evans is the clearest example, and wizarding genetics are famously unpredictable. Squibs are born to wizarding parents, and Muggle-borns appear without explanation. So, could Dudley's bloodline spark a witch or wizard? Post-series, Rowling said Harry and Dudley stayed on Christmas card terms, sometimes meeting with their families. Nothing in canon confirms Dudley's children are magical. In fact, extra material suggests the cousins don't connect because their worlds are too different, not because Dudley is secretly sending a child to Hogwarts. That leaves the theory in the realm of poetic irony. Petunia's family produced Lily, the witch. Vernon's family could too. Until a Dursley gets a Hogwarts letter, it remains an open and explosive what if. Mapping the Deathly Hallows to the trio. The tale of the three brothers gives us the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak. But fans argue Rowling mirrored them in her characters, sparking endless fights about who represents what. The mainstream read is simple. Harry is the cloak, the true master of death. Ron is the wand, chasing power and protection. Hermione is the stone, obsessed with memory and knowledge. But others flip the script entirely. Some say Harry is the stone. His deepest longing in the mirror of Erised was to see his dead family again. Hermione is the cloak, always the clever one, reorganizing the cloak as the most powerful and least cursed hallow. And Ron, overshadowed by siblings, craving recognition, embodies the wand, loud power to prove his worth. Then there's the extreme view. Dumbledore himself was the true master of all three, and the trio only echoed fragments. Canon leaves room for debate, because each mapping works depending on which traits you highlight. So, who holds which hallow? Depends on the fan you ask, and that's why this theory won't die. It's not just symbolism, it's prophecy disguised as personality. The veil is a time portal. This theory insists the Death Chamber's archway isn't a doorway to death, it's a tear in time. Sirius didn't die. He slipped somewhere or somewhen else. Fans point to the whispers. Harry and Luna hear voices behind the fluttering curtain, which feels less like nothingness and more like an active beyond. The arch is ancient, predating the Ministry, and the unspeakables study it, suggesting it's a phenomenon, not a tomb. Nobody returns. No spell finds remains. For believers, that all says rift, not end. Canon pushback is strong. Rowling has said outright that Sirius died when he fell through the veil. The Death Chamber symbolizes the boundary between life and death, not a transport hub. In the books, characters treat the fall as final, and no official source shows retrieval or survival on the other side. Why does the theory endure? Because the veil's presentation is deliberately uncanny. The curtain moves without air. The voices tempt the living. The unspeakables won't explain it. Those details keep the door cracked for speculation. If time and death are both studied in the same department, maybe the boundary blurs there. Text says death, the fandom keeps asking, or detour. Rowling is Rita Skeeter. Fans call this the most chaotic meta theory. J.K. Rowling is actually Rita Skeeter, hiding in the Muggle world. Publishing Harry's biography as fiction, the parallels are uncanny. Skeeter writes sensational exposés filled with gossip, half-truths, and inside knowledge. Rowling somehow gives us transcripts of private conversations, memories, and scenes no Muggle could have witnessed without magic or a beetle animagus. In canon, Rita illegally becomes an animagus to spy on people, then churns out the life and lies of Albus Dumbledore. The theory says she reinvented herself in our world and did the same thing, turning the wizarding world into a book series. Supporters even point to Rowling's real-life quirks. The pen name, Robert Galbraith, just another cover identity. The way her writing style mirrors Skeeter's tone. Sharp character sketches, leaked secrets, obsession with fame. It all fits. Critics dismiss it as satire. Skeeter would be decades older than Rowling, and no canon source suggests witches live double lives among Muggles. Still, it's fun to imagine. If Rita Skeeter wanted an audience audience free from the Ministry's censorship? Where better to hide than our world? And what better way than calling the truth a children's story? Neville's parents could have been healed. The theory argues St. Mungo's failed the Longbottoms, that Frank and Alice, tortured into madness by the Cruciatus curse, could have been cured with the right magic. Fans point to miracles everywhere else: regrown bones with skelly grow, basilisk petrification reversed with mandrake draught, even cursed ring injuries managed for months with potion and spell work. If wizards can do all of that, why not repair a shattered mind? Canon pushes back hard. The Longbottoms live in the Janus Thicky ward for long-term spell damage. Healers treat them with respect, but no remedy restores memory or personality. In Order of the Phoenix, Alice recognizes no one. She presses a gum wrapper into Neville's hand. Augusta Longbottom, who would seize any hope, tells us they won't recover. Gilderoy Lockhart, another patient, never regains his mind after a backfired memory charm, reinforcing that mental magic can scar beyond repair. Could there be undiscovered curses? Possibly, but nothing in the books, Pottermore, or interviews suggests one appears after the war. The darker reading, some wounds are terminal even in a world of wands. That's why the theory sings. It isn't about hospital incompetence. It's about limits of magic, of institutions, and of what justice can give back once torture takes it away.